Hello and welcome to this preview presentation for What's New in Revit 2021 from Graitec. I'm Greg Benson-Shettle. I'll be your presenter for this show. I'm one of the many Autodesk certified instructors that we have here at Graitec. I've been here for over 20 years, man and boy, and have seen the company go from strength to strength as an Autodesk Platinum dealer with multiple offices across Europe and the Americas. Graitec is over 30 years old. We have a proven pedigree in supporting our clients with sales, technical support, training, and product development to strengthen your investment in the Autodesk software. We sell, train, support, develop, and use the design software. It's in our very DNA. As a service provider, we fully understand the BIM process. Customer first is our mantra. We really mean it. Working with the Autodesk portfolio, our Power Pack enhancements, we aid the creation of construction and manufacturing deliverables. We can help you verify those deliverables by using our simulation products to drive designs into fabrication process, and then we can help manage those deliverables with our common data environment products, linking your internal and external platforms. No other dealer can offer this depth of assistance across your global offices in the world. Okay, let's get on with the main event. We have quite a list of improvements with Revit 2021, from the basic Revit platform to improve work across all sectors through to industry-specific enhancements and new features for architects, structural engineers, and MEP engineers alike. Okay, let's take a deeper look. First up, the Revit platform itself. What changes are going to be happening across the board that's going to help all of the different sectors? Okay, for starters, we have much better PDF and image linking. We can now link and unload images and PDFs in project models locally and from the cloud. Easily keep this information updated while not increasing the file size or embedding the image or PDF file for security or IP reasons. This feature improves sorting, adds size reporting, adds multi-select for unloading, reloading, remove operations, adds the ability to convert links to imports, and adds the show button to find a PDF or image in your model. Bottom line here is that you can utilize and manage images and PDFs much more easily in Revit 2021, these new linking features. For many of us, there's been an issue where a lot of the BIM hosting, BIM 360 hosting has been in America versus Europe, but now we've got cloud models that can be hosted successfully in the European data center. This applies to work-shared cloud models using Revit Cloud Worksharing, and non-work-shared cloud models using cloud models simply for Revit itself. So now we have got more choice in where our cloud hosted projects are going to be actually stored. More improvements across the platform is the ability to have project navigation actually in the Revit home start screen. Revit 2021 enables a better experience for BIM 360 project navigation in the Revit home screen. It's now easier to differentiate between recent files and cloud-hosted models. The list of projects is now searchable, making it easier to find the desired project. The Go to BIM 360 button is a handy shortcut to access the project on BIM 360 directly, and help links are easily accessed from the bottom left portion of the screen. So now with the Revit home experience, it's been significantly improved in Revit 2021 for project hosted using BIM 360, BIM 360 design. We've got some nice enhancements to customize our Revit workspace. For BIM users who are getting started with Revit, the customized workspace is a user experience improvement that makes multi-discipline tools feel like purposefully built. You can now create a user profile that allows Revit to provide a workspace suggestion tailored to your work discipline and job role. This feature takes the first step towards building a customized workspace for Revit users. Row stripping in schedules. Looking forward to this one. In Revit 2021, the stripes rows parameter enables you to display alternating schedule rows in contrasting colors. That's going to make it much easier to see, especially with those larger schedules. Both colors are user selectable for each scheduled view. When you enable strip rows parameters for a schedule, you will also have the option to enable show stripe rows on sheets. This parameter will display your selected row colors in sheet views. These settings may be saved in a schedule view template. So this new feature is going to give us the ability to have better control over the appearance of our schedules in our actual project sheets. To help Revit work with more continuity with other industries, we've got to now have an infrastructure discipline and bridge categories. So whilst Revit has been an architectural product, on the civils or the infrastructure side, this is an area that definitely needs improving. What we have now is some multidisciplinary BIM capabilities for higher quality coordinated drawings. And now this extension to Revit's built-in features to better support the bridge design features. A new category filter for infrastructure discipline has been added. Bridge model categories and subcategories and bridge annotation categories have also been added to help manage the display of bridge-related elements. So overall, Revit is improving with these features to help us work with bigger picture. Dynamo 2.5 has now been installed in Revit 2021. It provides a host of new capabilities. For example, Dynamo now finds required packages in the refreshed workspace references viewer and automatically notifies you if there's any missing. That's handy. The viewer lists the package used in your graph along with their version and status. In the package manager user interface, the downvote button has been removed to reduce confusion and promote positive reinforcement. The filter icon has been changed to filter by text to improve discoverability. We've got significant improvements in the area, particularly for large graphs that make changes to the Revit model, and also the overall run times have been reduced by up to 99%. These and many other enhancements are really going to help the computational design workflow. So if you're well into Dynamo, this is a very welcome change. Thinking about Dynamo, there's even more nodes that have now been added to support the most commonly requested conditions for geometry joining, pinning and unpinning, and the hosting of Revit elements. These nodes will help users work more productively through Dynamo-driven tasks. Enable view filters in View. What does this mean? Well, Revit now has the ability to switch on and off filters that you have in any particular view. This is going to make life a lot easier. So it offers us the ability to create a view filter that controls the visibility or graphic display of any particular elements. Using the filter tab in the visibility graphics dialog box, these filters can be applied to one or more views in Revit. That's going to make life a lot quicker. Revit 2021, this new enable filter column that's been added is going to give us the ability to quickly turn on or off overrides of a view filter without having to remove that filter from the actual view. So this new feature in Revit 2021 gives us the ability to quickly apply or remove view filters from the graphic overrides dialog box. Rotating tag with components. This is good. In the previous versions of Revit, when you had a tag assigned to a component, it would not rotate when those elements were rotated. Now they'd maintain their original orientation. So now we can control this behavior We can select the tag, open it for editing by clicking the Edit Family button, and enable the Rotate with Component parameter from the Properties palette. This will enable the tag to rotate with the component to which it's been assigned in your documentation. So this improvement is going to allow us to create more accurate and more readable annotations. Void cuts, family geometry, type and instance parameters. Void cutability can be applied to a family geometry by using type and instance parameters. Voids are often used in Revit families and in some cases can be defining the differences between different types of families. This enhancement will be particularly useful for countertop families that utilize different fixture inserts, or for window families that utilize sills with and without drip edges. This feature provides the user with much better control over the void functionality in Revit families. Very nice. Some other platform and improvements. Out of the box, the hard-coded line styles are now consistently named and sorted. To lighten the Revit installer, most sample content is no longer installed with Revit. A new Get Autodesk Content button has been added to ensure that customers who do use the samples content have quick and easy access to download this information. Sun and shadows are more accurate in extreme locations, in situations where the sun doesn't set, such as near the North or the South Poles. So the Revit 2021 features have many small enhancements intended to address a lot of the customer requests for improved productivity. So now into the industry sector specifics. For the architectural designers, we have some nice advanced feature improvements and something we've been waiting for quite some time. Let's take a look. Generative design is a design exploration process to quickly generate and evaluate high-performing design alternatives. Until now, many generative design tools have been hard to use because they required our customers to know how to code, understand special terminology, or know how genetic algorithms work. But now you can use generative design directly in Revit to quickly generate design alternatives based upon your goals, constraints, and inputs. Generative design provides a set of sample study types to demonstrate how this tool can be used to generate outcomes for design challenges. You can easily run one of the predefined studies or recipes with generative design in Revit, such as workspace layout or massing. Let's suppose you want to determine the best arrangement of desks in a large room. Your goal is to maximize the number of desks while maximizing views to the outside. You may also want to minimize the distance from each desk to the nearest exit. After generative design has completed a study, you can explore the design alternatives to find the solution that best meets your needs. For each outcome, the parallel coordinate chart highlights its input and output values. You can also use this chart to filter and prioritize outcomes by simply clicking and dragging over one or more of the columns. Another way to review and analyze the outcomes is through a scatter plot. You can use this chart's options to change the criteria used for the X and Y axes and format the outcome values. Once you've selected the outcome you'd like to implement in your model, simply select that outcome and click on Create Revit Elements. The design change will appear in your model immediately. There are two other studies or recipes ready to be used. Maximize window views. You may use this sample study type with generative design to generate alternatives that determine the best position in a room for optimal views to the outside. 3-box massing. Use this to generate alternatives for 3 adjacent buildings as simple masses to maximize floor area while minimizing the surface areas. So start using generative design in your Revit today to quickly evaluate the design options and save time with this automation. Real-time realistic views. Work directly in better, easier and faster live rendered views in the new Revit 2021. This feature replaces realistic views available in past releases. Experience over 10 times faster performance and automatic exposure control. The new mode is available in all types of views and allows direct editing of the model with rendered materials and lights. Work through a finished model design and modify your building with realistic lighting and materials while you work in placed views with materials and lighting onto sheets. Quick note on the hardware, your graphics card needs to have at least 4 GB of memory. Okay? So if you're using this feature and you've got a smaller graphics card, you may not want to use this. So real-time rendering is going to allow you to work directly in better, realistic ways. Here it is, slanted walls. We can now apply a slant or a tilt to a wall during their creation by selecting slanted from the new cross-section instance parameter in the constraints section of the properties palette. You can also change an existing vertical wall to a slanted wall. When the slanted wall option is selected, the angle from the vertical parameter is enabled. Use this parameter to select the inclination of the wall, which can range between plus 90 and minus 90 degrees. You may also use the editing grips at the top of the wall to adjust its height or angle. Windows and doors hosted in slanted walls will display an additional orientation instance parameter in the constraints section of the properties palette. You may elect to have the hosted element match the angle of the wall by changing this parameter from vertical to slanted. You may also create slanted walls from walls that are curved or elliptical in plan. This improvement helps the user create much more complex architecture, structural and curtain walls. Many of the times we need to work with our actual mechanical engineers who are using products like Inventor. And so now Autodesk Inventor 2021 extends the AnyCAD functionality for Autodesk Revit to help manufacturers in the construction industry collaborate and coordinate on the BIM projects. There is improved interpretability between the Revit and the Inventor by maintaining an associative link to the inserted Revit data as you work. The Revit project can be accessed from the local file or coordinated via the cloud using the Autodesk BIM 360 Common Data Environment. Changes during the design process are inevitable, so when Revit model changes, you'll need to update the Inventor model to suit. Because the Revit model is referenced into your Inventor assembly, any changes to the Revit project will also update inside the Inventor assembly and without any file translation. This improved interoperability between Revit and Inventor provides better support for design to fabrication workflows. Onto the structures. Within the structural sector, it's all about making structures that work, durable enough to withstand what life throws at them for years to come, making sure the reinforcement is up to the job. In Revit 2021, we're going to find a plethora of rebar and steel connection improvements. First up, the ability to create new standard 3D rebar shapes. Reinforcing bar assemblies, known as standees, are normally required for the support of top mats of reinforcing bars in the thick concrete members such as footings and slabs. These standees have a 3D rebar shape. You can now define such 3D rebar shapes by rotating the hooks at the end of the bars and directly inputting the hook lengths for each rebar instance. Hook rotation is considered when defining a rebar shape. If included in the rebar shape definition, rebar numbering considers hook rotation along with the other segment length parameters. You can also change hook lengths quickly for each bar in the project. This is accomplished by selecting the Override Hook Lengths option in the Properties palette and inputting the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. This is applicable for any rebar with hooks and requires that the hook length be assigned to a rebar shape parameter. You can also use rebar shapes with 3D hooks inside path reinforcement to distribute rebar standees in your structural projects. Thanks to this new functionality, structural engineers and detailers can now model standardized 3D rebar shapes, exact bending instructions, and provide full fabrication data for the rebar. More rebar improvements. Couplers for arc-shaped rebar. Rebar couplers are used to reinforce concrete structures to replace normal rebar lap joints. You can now use rebar couplers to connect tangent arc-shaped bars in circular concrete structures such as curved walls, concrete tanks, and tunnels, etc. This new feature will allow structural engineers and detailers to create highly detailed reinforcement models and documentation. End treatments with couplers for rebars. You can now add an end treatment to the end of any rebar without the need for a rebar coupler. Simply select any rebar and change the end treatment to start or end to any of the values defined in the project. Solid fabric sheet visualization. We can now view fabric sheets and custom fabric sheets in 3D views as solid or unobscured. This feature can be enabled in the same way as for other types of reinforcement. In other words, by changing the visibility status, which is available in the Properties palette. When a fabric sheet is selected, the solid stroke unobscured representation is enabled. This new feature will help structural engineers and detailer improve the coordination and reduce clashes through better visualization of the actual reinforcement. Override hook length by instances. The bond between steel and concrete is essential to ensure that they perform as a single entity in a loaded structure. To achieve the full bond, the surface needs to be in the concrete for a calculated length, the anchorage length. We can now easily specify the hook lengths for each rebar in the project without the need to duplicate the hook type and change the length of that type. Now, this is accomplished by selecting the Override Hook Length option in the Properties palette and inputting the new length in the respective rebar shape parameter field. So again, this should help with more accurate modeling. Integrated precast automation. The structural precast extension, formerly offered in Revit, is now integrated into Revit 2021 with dedicated precast ribbon tab located on the Steel tab. This precast feature now includes the Revit. These precast features are now included in the Revit installation. Simplify their deployment and making them available in all languages. In addition to the on-off button in the previous release, it has been replaced with the Enable-Disable precast updates. This change helps prevent the automatic recreation of precast elements due to changes performed in the precast assemblies. For example, small indentations of bracing inserts. The integration of this functionality supports multiple stages of the precast workflow, offering advanced tools to automate the process of generating precast assemblies, shop drawings, and files for computer-aided manufacturing CAM machines. So we now have a powerful set of capabilities regarding the rebar. Let's get onto the steel side of things and connections and the ability to have automated nodes via Dynamo. The Dynamo nodes are dedicated to placing steel connections in Revit, are provided with the Revit installation as part of the Dynamo for Revit. This means that the functionality previously provided by the Autodesk Steel Connections package, including nodes and sample scripts, will now be available in Dynamo for Revit without additional setup, simplifying the deployment and offering an integrated experience inside of Dynamo. These nodes will give you the functionality to drive steel connections by structural analysis results, tightening the integration between analysis and the detailing phases, helping you make better design decisions when adding steel connections to the structural model. The integration of Dynamo nodes for steel connections into Dynamo with Revit provides structural engineers with a better out-of-the-box design automation capabilities. The Structural Results Manager and the Results Exploration tools have now been integrated into Revit. These tools enable structural engineers to explore and document analysis results to gain insight into the structure's behavior and make appropriate design decisions and document them properly. Depending on the type of analysis performed, the results are represented graphically as a map and diagrams on elements for the analytical model used for analysis. Steel object editing. The steel detailing capabilities have been extended further to allow more flexibility when modifying steel elements and connections. To change the shape of a plate, simply select it and press Edit Boundary, and then you can stretch one of the plate's edges to the desired locations. To edit simple and complex cuts easily, just select the desired cut using the Tab key, press the Edit Boundary button again, and choose from several options to change the shape of the cut or add, for example, a radius to one of its corners. The size of circular openings can now be adjusted in a similar fashion. Select the opening, press the Edit Boundary button, and enter the desired new diameter value. This improves the flexibility and efficiency when we're detailing in Revit. Stiffeners on beams and columns. Stiffeners are an important component of structural steel design. They're used to strengthen a steel beam or column. A dedicated tool for creating stiffeners is now available in the Structural Connection Settings dialog box. Once loaded into your project, it is available from the Type selector. You can then insert stiffeners on selected steel members by selecting the insertion point. Like all Revit families, stiffeners have types. This means that you can create a library of different stiffeners. Stiffeners can be moved or copied to a different location along the same beam or to a different one. This new dedicated tool will help the efficiency when it comes to adding stiffeners. This new dedicated tool will help you efficiently add stiffeners and create more accurate steel design models. Insert steel elements in vertical views. Revit users were previously limited to inserting steel components in just the 3D views and horizontal views, such as levels and floor plans. This limitation has now been removed. Revit users may now place steel components in 2D vertical views. For example, a user may insert a steel plate in an elevation view or a vertical section view. This new feature gives you the freedom to model steel components in any view, whenever you wish. This feature gives you the freedom to model steel components in any view, wherever you prefer to see, create, and adjust them. So now you can work with the steel components simultaneously, 2D and 3D views. Dimension snapping to steel plates. When creating engineering drawings for steel connections, you may wish to create dimensions to the center of the plate for more accuracy. In addition to creating edge distances for a steel plate, it's now possible to snap to its midpoint and create dimensions indicating the distance from the plate edge to its center both vertically and horizontally. For stiffeners and connection plates along a beam, improvements have been made that enable you to dimension them from center to center with a dimension to a center line of the beam web. Because these dimensions are parametric, if you move these stiffeners, values of the dimensions between them will update automatically. So this feature is going to certainly help create more accurate and readable engineering drawings. And now for the mechanical, electrical and piping engineers, we have a deeper set of tools and controls to get those systems better integrated, analyzed and built to fit built environment to work. Looking at electrical circuits, parameter list on each of the panels. You can now select a scheme for a project that is used for all panels. In electrical settings, there is now a new node called circuit naming. The circuit naming schemes created here show up as options in the circuit naming parameter list on each panel. You can select a scheme for the project that is used for all panels that have their circuit naming value set to by project settings. So using this, Revit is more adaptable to the global market and we're able to provide a more flexible method to define circuit naming schemes. Power phases. Right. Revit now supports the showing of a single bus column in the panel schedule templates that only show single phase. Loads on a single phase L&N panel will all be connected to a single phase. With this enhancement, when selecting a distribution system to assign to a panel, Revit will check the voltage and the poles assigned to the connectors and filter out any distribution systems that don't match. All LN panel loads are on a single phase, and the phase total loads tabulate accordingly. The panel schedule will show the loads on the phase defined by what phase it is connected to on the panel that it is fed from. Now, schedules that use hide column for third phase option will now hide columns for all unused phases and will be applied automatically during upgrade. This option text has also been revised to reflect this new behavior. After upgrading, if a model already has circuits connected to a mismatched panels, the circuit connections will be kept. Then, if a user continues to assign circuits after upgrade, a warning displays to let the user know of a mismatched scenario. This enhancement in Revit now properly supports single phase, one pole, one hot conductor LN panel boards. Switchboard circuit quantity. Switchboards no longer report a value for the max one pole breaker parameter in the schedules and view filters as the max number of circuits. Parameter is used instead. Switchboards no longer report a value for the max pole breaker parameter in the schedules and view filters, as the max number of circuits parameter is used instead. Also, there is a new family parameter in the electrical equipment part types for the switchboard. This means that switchboard schedules now show the quantity of circuits rather than the number of connected poles. Switchboard circuit phase selection. Prior to this enhancement, 1 and 2 pole circuits are always connected to phase A when connected to the switchboard, making it not possible for the user to specify what phase a load is connected to. This new release of Revit, a new switch phases command has been added when selecting a circuit in the switchboard panel schedule view. Additionally, it is now possible to modify parameters of the spares and spaces, such as poles and frame size. The project browser now lists panel schedules under the sheets on which they are placed, improving consistency with other features of the project browser and helping users more quickly navigate their project to get the information they need. They're also searchable within the project browser. Also, part of the 2020.2 release was making it possible to modify properties of circuits and panels in the Properties palette from within the Panel Schedule view, making it easier and quicker to make modifications to these components without having to switch views. This addition provides electrical designers with faster and more consistent navigation for panel schedules. MEP work sharing enhancements, using the work sharing display to compare the legacy and the new behavior. Previously, all indirectly modified elements are borrowed. Now it's only the directly modified elements that are borrowed. To resolve work sharing issues and auto heal behavior for inline elements was disabled. To resolve work sharing issues, the auto heal behavior for inline elements was disabled. Understanding of the trade-off for having the undesirable behaviors removed versus being in control of exactly what happens is beneficial. These improvements will help MEP professionals to collaborate more effectively when using work sharing. P&ID modeler on the BIM 360 docs. The Revit connector for P&ID creates a connection between Revit and Plant 3D P&ID schematic diagrams to enable pipe modeling in Revit from BIM 360 docs. This replaces functionality previously available on BIM 360's team. Once Revit has connected to the Plant 3D collaboration project, the P&ID diagram is available in Revit, together with a list of its components contained within the P&ID diagram. Once Revit has connected to the Plant 3D collaboration project, the P&ID diagram is available in Revit, together with a list of the components contained within the P&ID diagram. Each P&ID part is color-coded to ensure correct usage and positioning. So the bottom line here is that the P&ID modeler for Revit is now hosted on BIM 360 docs. New pipe flow units. Revit now supports cubic feet per hour, cubic feet per minute, liters per hour as units for pipe flow. This addresses a popular customer request. Pipe flow units have now been added to better serve the mechanical designers. An MEP fabrication extension integration. The import and export features are now located in standardized menu locations, and output tools have been relocated from the Add-ins tab to the contextual menu that appears upon selection of an MEP fabrication part. MEP Fabrication Export is also located under the File tab Export menu. And finally, MEP Systems Analysis. The Systems Analysis feature in Revit, which extends on the capabilities of Autodesk Insight that leverages location and climate data to perform whole building performance analysis, addresses this challenge by giving the HVAC designers the ability to use architectural models in Revit at any level of completeness. With systems analysis, designers can quickly sketch their layouts, define zones, and even attach preliminary equipment that can be further defined and refined as more detail is added. And once systems and the zones they serve are defined, analytical models can be generated. Designers can then use Revit, views, and schedules to validate that their systems are properly defined and connected before the analysis begins by exploring their analytical systems in the system browser. Powered by Energy Plus, the system analysis tool comes with two default analysis routines, one for annual building performance and one for calculating loads and sizing. But custom routes can be created as well. And when all the analysis is complete, designers can explore their reports in graphical and tabular forms. With Revit Systems Analysis, enjoy integrated HVAC analysis and modeling, better building designs and performance. And that's a wrap. So that was what's new in 2021. I hope you found some of it interesting and inspiring so that you can get to start to play with some of these new features in Revit 2021 and grab it as soon as it appears in your Autodesk account. For more design software updates, tips and tricks, head on over to our webpage in the blog page and subscribe to receive the latest news from our team of industry experienced application engineers. That brings to a close today's presentation. Thank you for your time today to watch this. I've been Greg Benson-Shettle. Once again, thank you. Keep safe. Goodbye for now.